Hello and welcome back to another edition of Pop Culture Graveyard. I'm your host Hollis, and this week it's going to be a little bit of a different kind of episode. Some of my friends requested that I show my lunchbox collection, so that's what you're getting. All lunchboxes, all the time. So grab your Trapper Keeper, get your number 2 pencils, and pack yourself a PB&J, because I'm taking you back to school. Alright, so this isn't going to be about the history of lunchboxes. I'm just focusing on my collection, the boxes that speak to me, and this is probably going to be a 2-part episode. I'll do part 2 somewhere down the line, but I can tell right now just from looking at these things that I probably won't get through half of them. So, I'm going to start off with a few for the little kids. Roadrunner. This is a beautiful, colorful box. It goes for over $100. It's of course based on the Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote cartoons. These characters were created in 1949, and it's kind of a sick relationship they have going on. I don't know. There's always been bad blood. I don't know where it began. This is not about food. This is a vendetta. Wile continually tries to kill the Roadrunner using all manner of contraptions he buys from Acme. By the way, aren't there antitrust laws? What's the deal with Acme? It's a monopoly. Here's Wile, he can't catch a break. And by the way, if you weren't rooting for Wile E. Coyote, I don't think we can be friends. Look at this cocky bastard. Up next, Woody Woodpecker. How adorable is Woody? He's here taking a little roller coaster ride. Woody was created in 1940, and he's still thriving today. This box goes well over $100. I think it has to do with the beautiful artwork and the extraordinary color seen on the entire box, but it's very popular. And now it's time for Snoopy. This is a very popular box among collectors. As you can see, it's what they call a dome. Snoopy's doghouse is what it is. On this side he's reading a book. I'm down with anything that promotes literacy among the youngins. It was created of course by Charles Schulz, and the date on this is 1968. The date, however, does not vary from box to box. It's always there, it's the copyright. So you're not sure quite what year your box was made. And the slot here is so that little Natalie or Tootie or Blair could put their name on it. And on this side of the dome, you see Snoopy is enjoying a delicious sandwich and having a cup of joe. What kid doesn't like a big cup of joe? The cup, you'll notice, is blue, and this is a super rare variant. Most of the cups that you see in his hand out in the wild on this box have a red cup. So if you ever see one with the blue cup, scoop it up. It goes for about twice the price of the red cup. Regardless of what color the cup is, this is just a beautiful, beautiful lunchbox. Up next we have the Brady Bunch. You all know the way they became the Brady Bunch, so I won't belabor the point. But suffice it to say, when them two met it was murder. That's wrong. This box is kind of rare. It was made in 1969. And finding ones in good condition will cost you a pretty penny. This one has some rusting and a little bit of dirt that I'll be able to clean off, but it's a beautiful lunchbox. I love the red and the blue. Carol looks delicious. The girls, though, don't look anything like the girls. Maybe Cindy a little. The front depicts the episode The Honeymoon, where Mike and Carol got married and the whole clan became the Brady Bunch. The back features the episode A Camping We Will Go, where the boys think they encounter a bear, but it's really just the girls having a go. That's Cindy pretending to be a bear and scaring her brothers. Isn't that lovely? Both of the sides feature the episode A Clubhouse is Not a Home. See what they did there? It's no girls, that's no boys allowed. And on the bottom, well, you got the whole damn bunch. This was made by King-Sealy Thermos. King-Sealy Thermos, or Thermos, and Aladdin are the two titans of the lunchbox industry. They're like Godzilla and King Kong. A worse analogy? I can't think of one. Incidentally, the Brady Bunch was created by Sherwood Schwartz, the same mind that brought you Gilligan's Island. Are you like me? Are you shocked there's not a Gilligan's Island lunchbox? Is that a natural or what? They're stuck on that island. Give them a lunchbox. Up next, The Muppet Show. It debuted in the UK in 1976, and it played for 5 seasons, eventually becoming a worldwide phenomenon. Phenomenon. All your major characters are right here on the front. Kermit leading the way. Miss Piggy, of course. Fozzie. My boys, Under the Handle. Under the Handle art drives me crazy because a lot of times it's my favorite. These are my favorite characters in the whole show. Statler and Waldorf. Those two curmudgeons. I had so much in common with them as a kid. There was a big cloud over my head my entire childhood, and I really related to Statler and Waldorf. And they're under there. You know what? It totally makes sense. Look at them in their theater seats with obstructed view. They're probably just yammering on about how bad their view is. That's awesome. Now I love it. Now I love it. And the bottom features a bunch of drag queens, it looks like. I don't judge. The back features Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. The acid rock, psychedelic, funktastic, face melting, guitar shredding, I don't know, man, band. Animal on the drums, everyone's favorite. Holding his drumsticks, Keith Moon style. You gotta love Animal. Dr. Mayhem actually freaked me out a little bit. I'm down with the Leon Russell stuff, but something about the gold tooth. It's a little too Bishop Don the Magic Wand for me. You know what I mean? In any case, this is a super popular lunchbox, and rightly so, and there's lots available. So if you're interested, this is a good box to start with. Up next, kids everywhere love the Harlem Globetrotters. This box is from 1971. This was put out during the run of the cartoon series from 1970 to 1972, and it became much more popular in reruns than it even did during its first run. Here we see the Harlem Globetrotters playing their game on top of a bus, while Granny, a character they made up for the cartoon, was their personal manager and bus driver, and I think just a reason to get a white person in there. Here we see the full array of Globetrotters. We got Dribbles and Bobby Joe and Pabs and JC, Geese, Meadowlark, Curly, and the ever-present Granny. I know when I roll up on the court and I want to be taken seriously, I bring an octogenarian with me. This was a favorite cartoon of mine as a child. You might be a little surprised to learn that there were no actual voices of the Globetrotters involved. Meadowlark Lemon was played by Scatman Crothers, another personal favorite from my childhood, and JC was voiced by Eddie Rochester Anderson. This was the first Saturday morning cartoon to feature a predominantly African-American cast. And Granny. It's just beautiful. It's on point for the upcoming bicentennial, 5 years later. One thing I used to love is how every single episode ended with them solving a problem with a game of basketball. Up next, Blondie. This was a very popular comic strip. The front shows Dagwood Bumstead running into the mailman, Mr. Beasley, as he often did, while the beautiful wife, Blondie, stands idly by. And the back of the box features Dagwood holding the sandwich he made famous. The quintuple, I don't know how many layers that is, dectuple? Big-ass sandwich that he made famous. There's Blondie again, looking gorgeous. One of the prettier lunchboxes you'll find out there. Great color. If you don't know the story of them, Dagwood was heir to an industrial fortune, and he wanted to marry Blondie, and his parents disapproved, so they disinherited him. So Dagwood and Blondie were then relegated to living a middle-class life. Incidentally, you might wonder how a guy like Dagwood could get a lady like Blondie. It might have something to do with the fact that her maiden name is Boop Boop Ba Doop. Suddenly Blondie Bumstead doesn't look so bad. There's Blondie again. The hair game is on point. The bottom shows Dagwood half asleep while his boss, Mr. Dithers, looks on. Incidentally, this box was created by an artist named Charlie Brown. He also did the Bullwinkle and Rocky box, which is one of the most expensive and rare lunchboxes out there. Up next, Saturday morning favorites, the Bugaloos. Created by Sid and Marty Krofft, who did some of my favorite shows as a kid, Land of the Lost, H.R. Puffnstuff, lots of others. Very, very weird series. It featured a grasshopper, a ladybug, a bumblebee, and a butterfly, all of whom performed as a rock band. And with them, as always, was their little pal, Sparky the Firefly, played by Billy Barty, little person extraordinaire, activist, bon vivant, Liberace impersonator, and my personal Lord and Savior. The other side of the box features Martha Ray, denture wearer. She goes by the name of Benita Bazaar. She lives in a jukebox. That's my favorite part about her. And she has a couple of assistants who are speakers. And from 1970 to 1972 on NBC Saturday mornings, you could watch her try and catch the Bugaloos. She couldn't stand that they made beautiful music and she sounded terrible. Here you see Bonita trying to drive after the Bugaloos and catch them. The Bugaloos vehicle was a dune buggy. No big surprise. Dune buggies were very big. As a kid, if you watched TV and didn't go outside, you thought everyone drove a dune buggy. That's all you saw in the 70s. Anyway, the Bugaloo buggy was designed by George Barris, the same man that designed the Batmobile and the Munsters coach. Very, very hippie era still. Even though we're in the early 70s, people don't realize the 60s bled over into the 70s for a while. And everything was ultra colorful. It's a really beautiful lunchbox. One of my favorites. Little known fact, Phil Collins. In the Air Tonight, Phil Collins auditioned to be IQ, and he didn't make it. He couldn't cut it as a Bugaloo. The Bugaloos were more picky than Genesis, but I love all the Sid and Marty Krofft shows, as you will soon see. Next up, Lidsville. It only ran for 17 episodes, 2 seasons, from 1971 to 1973. But this 1971 lunchbox is one of my favorites. It stars a teenage Butch Patrick from the Munsters, little Eddie just blossoming into manhood. On a trip to Six Flags, he ended up falling into the giant hat of Merlot the Magician, and he was transported magically to the land called Lidsville, where everyone is a hat, with the exception of Weenie the Genie, played by Billy Hayes, who was in a bunch of other Sid and Marty Krofft shows. This is a really beautiful box, great colors, love the purple. The back, we see Merlot the Magician, aka Horatio J. Hoodoo, played by the effervescent Charles Nelson Riley. And he was never better. I take that as an unqualified rave. Anyway, you got your good hats and you got your bad hats. Just like America. As I said, it only ran for 17 episodes and poor Butch Patrick never made it back to his home. Up next, from 1974, also a Sid and Marty Krofft show, Sigmond and the Sea Monsters. He was kicked out by his sea monster family because he refused to scare people. Sigmond, of course, played by Billy Barty, bringing the heat, coming in hot. But he was voiced by Walker Edmiston, the same guy who did the voice of the Keebler Elf. He also voiced all the male members of Sigmund's family, who are represented on the back. You have his brothers, Burp and Slurp, and Big Daddy Ooze, his father. Big Mama Ooze, his mother, is shown here with Burp and Slurp. The entire family are seen playing poker. Sea monsters playing poker. That, for me, is above dogs. This was created by an artist named Anne Cummings, who worked at Aladdin. She was one of the few female artists in the business at the time, as most of them were male. Speaking of breaking boundaries, there's Julia, starring the gorgeous Diahann Carroll, the first African-American woman to star in her own series. This was a single-camera show from 1968 to 1971, and this box dates from 1969. Here we see Julia, her son Corey, and his best friend Earl J. Wagerdorn. Julia was a nurse working in an aeronautics plant. Her husband was killed when he was shot down in Vietnam. This show was groundbreaking in its day, but it actually got shit for being too white bread. Can you believe that? Vietnam War widow raising a kid alone. Too white bread. This was years and years before The Cosby Show, which is now unwatchable. It's a beautiful lunchbox. Back shows her at her work, again looking gorgeous. Her and Corey, her nosy neighbor. This lunchbox was created by an artist named Nick Lobianco. Nick did a lot of great work, some of which I'm showing you today. I feel like I could hang out with anyone who had a Julia lunchbox. Speaking about breaking the glass ceiling, you know what's a good way to do that? Fly right through it. The Flying Nun. This starred Sally Field. You like her. You really, really like her. The show ran for 3 seasons, 1967 to 1970. This box is 1969, and it shows Sally Field as Sister Bertrill, who, thanks to her weighing exactly 90 pounds and wearing the right habit, has the gift of flight, much to the chagrin of Mother Superior and the rest of the nuns. Sally Field's character started as a protester in Chicago, And after she got arrested, she somehow wound up being a nun in Puerto Rico. It could happen today. Here she is, flying with a guy in a plane who's super surprised. And, well, she's flying again. I guess you gotta keep her flying. This is a very nice lunchbox, and finding it in good shape is always hard. On the rarity scale, it's a 5. Rarity goes from 1 to 10, so it can be troublesome to find in good condition, like this one. Up next, Planet of the Apes, a classic box, one of my favorites, because I loved the original movie, I loved all the spin-offs, I loved the comic books, I loved the TV series, and every iteration thereof. This was created in 1974 to coincide with the TV series that came out that year. The producers somehow cajoled Roddy McDowell to get into his old ape suit. He's playing a character named Galen, who is basically Cornelius in everything but name. The badass gorilla general is Urko, my favorite character, and he was played in the series by Mark Lenard. You might remember Mark Lenard from the original Star Trek, where he played Spock's father. Dr. Zaius is always around. My favorite type of lunchbox is usually one where they tell you what the series or movie are about, and they really nailed it here. In the series, Galen has befriended 2 modern-day astronauts who got stranded there. The astronauts are meant to stand in for the entire human race. 1 blonde white guy and 1 brunette white guy. Yep, that's the whole human race. On the back, Galen is helping to free one of his astronaut buddies, while the brunette astronaut, James Naughton, brother of David Naughton from American Werewolf in London, stands by with a big club to beat the nasty brute with. Am I the only one who rooted for the apes? Once you start collecting Planet of the Apes stuff, it's really hard to stop. No, it's not. On the rarity scale, this rate's a 5, so they're pretty hard to find in good condition, so expect to pay a couple of $100s for a really mint one. And from those astronauts, we're going to segue to Star Trek. This is a very popular domed lunchbox. As you can see on the front, it shows the Enterprise. It was created by artist Robert O. Burton. He's also the guy who designed the KFC logo. This lunchbox dates to 1968. The original Star Trek show ran from 1966 to 1969. When it was canceled for low ratings, it didn't really become the wildly popular show it was until it ran in syndication in the 70s. So there was very little merchandise actually created during the run of the show, which is one of the things that makes this box really rare. On the side, you'll see Kirk and Spock, the 2 leads from the series. On the back, you see them again. Spock is working the communicator, and Kirk is holding some wacky ray gun rifle. The artwork looks suspiciously like the artists were only given 1 episode to work from, Where No Man Has Gone Before, which is the second pilot, because in that episode, Kirk actually holds a laser rifle that looks suspiciously like this one. But it's a really beautiful depiction of the Enterprise. On the bottom of the lunchbox, the bottom usually wears out on these things, but you can see the crew pretty well. You could look at this as the Cadillac of lunchboxes. This is always going to run you a few $100s if you find it in really, really pristine shape. But, you know, there are also obviously good versions out there to be had for reasonable prices. From Star Trek, we segue to Space 1999. This box came out in 1976. The series was a joint venture between Britain and Italy. In Italy, it's known as Spazio 1999. What? My mom's Sicilian. The series was set on Moonbase Alpha. It was a very adult series, very nuanced, starring real-life husband and wife Martin Landau and Barbara Bain. Barbara Bain and Martin Landau, of course, parents of Juliet Landau, Drusilla on Buffy. Got a very cool band. This is known as the band that goes around. On the bottom of the box, little negotiation going on. Big part of sci-fi, a lot of negotiating. Got to get things just right. This is one of my favorites just because I find it so charming that some 7 or 8-year-old is walking to school holding Martin Landau on his lunchbox. And Barbara Bain, you know. I can't think of a child who doesn't like to eat their tuna fish sandwich while looking at a couple of 40-somethings. This is a favorite. Enough of this sci-fi. Let's get to real science. Boom! 1963. John Glenn in orbit. This is a super rare box. On the rarity scale, it rates a 7. And the reason for this is kind of cool. On the back, we see the Atlas launch vehicle that sent him up into the atmosphere to do his orbit. And on the front, we see a cross-section of the Mercury capsule Friendship 7. And what Thermos did that got them in trouble was they stole these two images from National Geographic, and they just put them on here. And so Thermos managed to tick off two different corporations, NASA, and beyond them, the US government, because they didn't want proprietary information, such as what goes into a capsule, out where every little kid can see it when they're in the middle of a Cold War, and National Geographic, who were like, hey, we paid for those. So they sent a cease and desist order, and they quickly pulled these from production, but not before a whole bunch of them got out. So this is super rare. It'll run you well into the hundreds of dollars. But if you're crafty, and if someone doesn't know what they're selling, you can get a real bargain like I got here. I really like the older design. They had the little vents in them, and there he is getting picked up after his successful 3 orbits. So yeah, this is one to be on the lookout for if you want to get into this. If you want to talk government agencies, we should talk Man from U.N.C.L.E. One of the coolest series ever to come out of the 60s, and that's saying something. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. starred Robert Vaughn as Napoleon Solo and David McCallum as Ilya Kuryakin. Here they are making life difficult for a scuba diver. On the back, they're running right through that roadblock because they don't care, because secret agent. This box was actually designed by Charlie Brown, the most prolific artist, but he farmed it out and it was finished by Jack Davis, who is super famous. Jack designed the characters in Mad Monster Party. He designed posters for Bad News Bears, The Odd Couple, and It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Did I forget a mad? One of his trademarks was skinny legs and big feet. Jack Davis is just one of my all-time favorite artists. Anyway, this series ran for 4 seasons and inspired many imitators. To wit, Get Smart. Just to let you know, I don't always find them in good condition. This has a sticker on it. I'll be able to get that off. And this has some sticker residue on it. I'll be able to clean that off. And there's a little bit of marker that was on here that I'll be able to clean off too. Oftentimes, you find the box with really good bones, and you can do a few aesthetic cleanups that aren't that big a deal. Get Smart ran for 5 seasons from 1965 to 1970. This box is from 1966 at the height of its popularity. On the front you can see Max, played by Don Addams, who is Agent 86. Agent 99, his love interest, played by Barbara Feldon. And Max's dog, Fang, who was only there the first 2 seasons. He was Agent K-13. And the two had a really strong bond, not just because Fang was his dog, but they also went to spy school together and graduated in the same class. The series was created by the brilliant Mel Brooks and Buck Henry, 2 of my idols, and the box was designed by one of my favorite lunchbox artists, Nick Lobianco. Incidentally, Nick Lobianco also designed the Monkees logo, where the word Monkees is in the shape of a guitar. Fun fact! So on the bottom of the box, we have Max and 99 tied up. And Max there actually looks a little like Maury Amsterdam. The artwork varied depending on the panel. Here he is accidentally firing his gun while he talks on his shoe phone. And here Max is freed and firing his machine gun in the general direction of the bad guys. I tend not to like lunchboxes that have guns on them. I don't think they've aged well. But here, you just know that Max isn't hitting anybody. And there, of course, Don Addams, the star of the series. The attention to detail. Look at the freckles on Don. Isn't that amazing? And up here, under the handle, again, one of the coolest panels hidden under a handle. Would you believe? The Cone of Silence. As long as we're talking Nick Lobianco, let's talk a little Kung Fu. This is another beautiful lunchbox by Nick Lobianco. Starred David Carradine, ran from 1972 to 1975. David played Kwai Chang Caine, or just Caine, and he went from town to town and got in adventures in the old Wild West, using his Kung Fu to help people and get himself out of scrapes. In the front we see Caine training, and in the back we see Caine training. It wasn't very big on the actual action in the series, except my old pal under the handle. He's actually chopping a tree the branch is going to help a guy in quicksand, which was omnipresent in most of the shows I watched as a child. Here, it's blatant they're going for that Bruce Lee dollar. Bruce Lee's widow, to this day, claims that he created the series, that he pitched it. He did pitch a series about a character in a Western setting. He also auditioned for the role of Kane. Came right down to the wire until the producers decided that a Chinese actor could not carry the series. Racism. When the show ended, it still had very strong ratings, and it was only ended because David Carradine wanted to go on and do other things. By other things, I guess Death Race 2000. I'm going to end on this one just because I have to end it somewhere. Welcome back, Kotter. This was a big series for me as a little kid. I thought they were the coolest guys. The show ran for 4 seasons from 1975 to 1979. This box is from 1977. The series stars Gabe Kaplan as a high school teacher who returns to his alma mater to teach the very same remedial class that he was stuck in when he was there. They're called Sweat Hogs. The current crop of Sweat Hogs has Juan Epstein, Freddie Boom Boom Washington, John Travolta as Vinnie Barbarino, and then little Ronnie Polillo as Horshack. They were remedial back in the day. I think now you'd call them special needs. As you can see, the box really plays up Epstein's Chico Marx facial expressions. On the back, it's again Epstein, a band apart from his compatriots. He wants to know who messed up his denim. You have the put-downs from the show. Up your nose with a rubber hose. My old nemesis, the Handle. Welcome to Brooklyn, 4th largest city in America. Is that still true? Anyway, these boys were big business. I remember my sister had the t-shirt. I had the color forms. There's a board game. And if you want to fall down this rabbit hole, there's plenty of other products for you. I think you should subscribe to this channel. Signed, Epstein's mother. I didn't say it. That's it for this week on Pop Culture Graveyard. If you like this episode, be on the lookout for part 2 sometime in the future.